The time has come. Today I'm going to try to fix the screen. Hasn't worked for months now. Actually, I don't think the problem is the screen. I think the problem is the cable that connects the body of the camera with the screen. I think this design is not the best, and the cable was just worn out from tilting the screen so much over the years. So what I did is I got a new cable online. I'm gonna open the camera just with a few screwdrivers and try to replace it myself. So hopefully this is gonna be a matter of half an hour to 1 hour, a lot of patience, $10 spent on the cable, which by the way took several weeks to get here, but it's still much better than having to ship the camera in and get it fixed, because that would be much more expensive in both money and time. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe I fixed the screen, I fixed the camera by myself. I missed it so much. This is so important for my photography. I rely on the screen so much. You might remember a photo I made here during the pandemic, I believe, of some start trails. There was an old window here that was falling apart. It was in very bad condition. As you can see, it's gone now. They took it down because it was very dangerous for anyone walking by here. Also from the time of the pandemic, during the lockdown, you might remember a video that I made here. I called it the upside down, I believe. I was playing with the paddles and the reflections on this football field. A very good use case for screens, because taking photos so low using just the viewfinder would be almost impossible unless you are willing to, well, get very wet. You may also remember another trip of mine from a few years ago across Austria and Italy, when I left my big cameras behind and I used only compact cameras, and those cameras did not have viewfinders. 2 months shooting with just the LCD screen on the back of my camera. So I have experience on the field from using cameras without viewfinders and without screens. And I can tell you that I like to have both, but if I had to choose, I would rather have the screen and not the viewfinder. And it's not that I don't like using the viewfinder, that I don't use the viewfinder, quite the contrary. Before this trip to Norway, I bought a new eyepiece, as you can see there. But I think this comes from the time where I shot the Bronica exclusively for a while, because I love the waist level viewfinder on that camera. Yes, it did have a magnifying glass to actually make sure that you had the picture, the photograph was going to be in focus. But most of the time I was composing, looking at my image, looking at my composition from a distance, you know, from above. And I think that's why I like to shoot like this, below eye level and with the screen extended. I think that is out of habit from that time. Of course, the Bronica is not the only camera that has something like that. The Rolleiflex that I love using as well is the same way, has a waist level viewfinder. But even large format cameras, view cameras, they don't have viewfinders, they just have a huge screen. It's almost like shooting with an iPad, but 60, 70, 100 years ago. I really like tilting screens for photography. I think that they are almost ideal, but since these cameras are hybrid and now the video is almost as important, if not more, in many cases than photography, camera companies had to come up with new designs to accommodate for that. For example, you can see here the CV1, it has a flipping screen so you can see yourself when you are vlogging, or you can see the framing, your framing when you are recording yourself, like I am doing now with the A7 IV, which has the same screen. A lot of people, including myself, criticize Sony in the past for their first designs, getting away from the because I think they recognized that the tilting screen was the best solution for photographers. So they came up with, I don't have the camera here, but with some cameras like the RX100 Mark 6 and 7, I believe, the screen could tilt upwards like that, so you could see yourself and still you had the same functionality of the tilting screen. The problem was that, you know, microphones usually go on top of cameras and that was blocking the screen. But still, I think that design was not that bad, because now that I've been using the A7 IV more for photography lately, because the screen on this camera was not working, I've become really aware of the shortcomings of flip screens for photography, because this is a movement that I do very often, because I'm always shooting a little bit lower or higher than eye level, and that is very simple, very easy to do with these cameras. It's just that movement, that motion. But with these ones, you have to open them and then tilt them. It doesn't really matter if you have the screen facing towards the camera or outside, it just doesn't tilt. So if I want to take a photo from high up and I want to tilt that screen down, I have to open it and tilt it. It's an extra step that I have to take. It's not that it's a huge deal, but I'm always afraid having the screen sticking out like that I'm gonna break it. It's not the first time that with A7 IV taking photos I hit it against something, a wall, a fence, or myself, so I have to be very careful with that. I think that is a weak point of this design. So yeah, it looks like Sony came up with a new design on their A7R Mark V. I haven't tried it. That's a very expensive camera. I could buy 3 of these for the price of that one, but it looks like the best of both worlds, because you can flip the screen to see yourself when you are recording videos, and you can tilt it without having to unfold the whole thing. I would like to try it, but again, it's a camera that is most likely out of my range for now. But so was this camera when it first came out. It was an expensive camera as well, but I was able to get it for like a third of the price 5-6 years down the road. So who knows, I might be able to try that design in 5 to 6 years when the A7R Mark V or the 6 or whatever, well, it's more affordable. Another situation where the screen is key for my photography is when shooting from the car, and as you could see from my recent trip to Norway, I do that very often. And it's not just because I want to point the camera up or down, it's because sometimes I have to extend my arm to actually capture what I want at the focal length I want. So the screen is vital, because of course I can't use the viewfinder in these situations. This also applies to, I know, if you are trying to avoid fences or bushes or obstacles like that, where the viewfinder just doesn't work. Anyway, I think it's pretty clear that I'm very happy about having the screen back and working on my camera, because it makes a huge difference. Even though these screens on the Sony cameras are not that great, the resolution is not that great, but I feel like they make a huge difference, and they allow me to take shots that I wouldn't have otherwise. I don't know what I have done. If I couldn't fix the screen, I would probably look at a new camera or something, but I'm very happy to know that this A7R II, which is not even 3 years old, probably still has a lot of photography ahead of it, and that makes me very happy, because I love this camera. Anyway, before letting you go, I just wanted to share really quick with you this little book that Stephen Lawson was kind enough to send me. It's a beautiful collection of color as abstract photographs. This is pretty much the opposite of what I do, because I photograph, my images are black and white And even though I do some abstract photography every once in a while, it's not very often, and it's not this abstract. And I've mentioned before that I really like to draw inspiration from genres of photography that I don't practice myself. For example, street photography is a very good example, because I really like, or portrait photography, I really like looking at those images. It's just I don't enjoy as much making them, but I think there is a lot of lessons that we can draw from different art forms and different genres of photography. And this is a good example as well, because I really loved going through Steven's work of these color abstract photographs. As I said, very different from what I usually do, and I think that's the washer. Anyway, a very inspiring piece of work. I'm gonna leave the link in the description down below, just in case you want to check it out yourself and maybe grab a copy for your collection. Thank you so much, Steven, for sending me this. And of course, a big thanks to all of you for watching this video. See you in the next one.